Like an old man playing with his Wiglet, we don't know when these cards will release. Since 2026 is our J block, they could be in Ascended Heroes, or our first main set of 2026 likely at the end of March, or even our second main set of 2026 likely at the end of May. It's impossible to know for sure right now. When we know the Ascended Heroes set list in just over a month though, that's when we'll have some answers. All we know for sure right now is that the J block Mega Charizard YEX is in Ascended Heroes. So as Kevin Garnett said, which is what I repeat whenever I slide into Jennifer Lawrence's DMs hoping for a response, anything is possible. Now, before I get to previewing what all of these cards do, I have to temper expectations. These are all included in Japan's start decks, as in they're designed to be accessible for new players, not competitive for old players like you and me who need glasses to read the text on cards because it's too damn small. For example, we have the new Hoopa and Mawile. As Pokebeach's translations show, these are wastes of cardboard, and this will probably be the only time I talk about them. Hoopa draws 2 and does 130 damage for 3 energy at the cost of not attacking next turn. Sure, you could say it works with Toxtricity, but there's better single prize options. Mawile, meanwhile, has a Call for Family attack that gets just 2 basics instead of the goated 3 we never see anymore, plus a 90 damage attack for 3 energy. These were created as helpers in those start decks, not to add to winning lists. So keep that in mind as I talk about this next card. Remember when I said Mega Hawlucha EX is arguably the worst Mega ever printed? Well, I think Audino might have heard me say that and got jealous. For 3 colorless energy, Ear Force does 20 base damage. You're probably thinking that that's fine because obviously it'll do more damage based on the number of energy attached to itself, right? I mean, it's a 3-prizer who gets easily one-shot by Mega Lucario and any decent fighting type attacker in the game. Well, you'd be more wrong than Ash when you use Charizard against Richie's Pikachu. Ear Force does 80 damage for each energy attached to your opponent's active. So against Cerule Edge, someone who can one-shot Audino, that's 100 damage. Or against Dragapult EX, that's just 180. And it's not like Audino has an ability similar to his Pathra that forces them to have extra energy attached. Nor can you really use Pokemon League HQ because that also causes Audino to need an extra energy to attack. Plus, that particular stadium is from the G block, meaning it'll leave in standard in our upcoming rotation, likely at the end of March. The only saving grace is Mega Audino's first attack, Kaleido Waltz. By using Kristoff Waltz, you flip 3 coins. For each heads, you search your deck for 2 basic energy and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like. Ignoring the fact that we still don't have a coin reflip card in standard, this effectively turns Audino into a souped up Turbo Energize. Unfortunately, it's probably going to be stranded after its usefulness is run out, as both Penny and Turo Scenario are rotating in a few months. It's sad to see the Pokemon Company give Mega Audino such horrible treatment. I mean, Mega Audino uppercase EX won Worlds in 2016. Fast forward a decade later, and its successor does less damage in most situations. Of course, if they decide to give us a new supporter in 2026 that brings up Megas or a coin reflip card, Mega Audino could kinda be insane. I mean, putting 6 energy into play on turn 1 going second? That's more busted than my back when I try to lick my feet without stretching first. Still, at least right now, I don't know if I can give it more than 2 toes out of 5. Because having to use Scoop Up Cyclone as your A-Spec to maybe hopefully accelerate some energy into play once Turbo Energize is gone just doesn't appeal to me. Or, you know, Tor goes and puts this into his Mega Deck, wins a major tournament, and we all have to face this thing every other game for the next year. In a random twist of fate that has nothing to do with Jeff Hardy, we're getting new Terra Pokemon in 2026 with Koraidon and Miraidon. Except Terra Pokemon completely skipped the I block in 2025, so these two will just kinda exist alone in a few years without access to Briar or Area Zero after the other Terras rotate. Anyway, Terra Koraidon EX continues the tradition of every Koraidon EX not being good, which is crazy because this will be our 4th Koraidon EX. With the new Koraidon, it does 170 damage for a fighting and a colorless if one of your Pokemon was knocked out the turn prior. Its second attack does 200 damage for 2 fighting and a colorless, but it can't attack the following turn. And 200 damage just isn't enough in this day and age. The one positive thing I've seen people say about Terra Koraidon is that it can revenge KO a Mega Kangaskhan in a Terra Box deck. You already run Crisp and an Energy Switch, so getting it powered up isn't a big deal. Honestly, I don't hate it. Until you realize Bravery Charm puts Kangaskhan out of range. But then you remember Bravery Charm's rotating and it gets slightly better. Overall, Koraidon's something to keep in mind for next year in case we get any other strong Megas weak to fighting. If not, it'll probably be added to the bulk pile. Speaking of the bulk pile, Terra Miraidon EX is also our 4th Miraidon EX. Except where Koraidon was lacking, the original Miraidon EX has been a staple in every good lightning deck for years. Ditching the 220 damage attack for 3 energy a couple of the others have, Terra Miraidon actually does 240 damage for 3 energy provided their active is an EX. That makes hard-on spiked fairly decent, allowing you to one-shot something like Raging Bolt. Or even Golden Go or Ceruledge if you attach a Defiance Band or Maximum Belt. That would be fine, except Lightning is losing a lot of support with rotation early next year. The good Miraidon EX, Electric Generator, and Iron Hands are all gone. After that, we'll be relying almost exclusively on Electric and maybe Magneton for energy acceleration. I could definitely see a world where Terra Miraidon is used early to take a KO on something like Fezandipity or Latios, then you follow it up with Mega Magnetric and finally Zekrom. But without Generator, that's a lot of pressure on the eel. Honestly, I'm starting to think Bellibolt EX with Voltorb could emerge as the Lightning frontrunner next year. It can hit super hard, and with Canary getting 4 Lightning Pokemon every turn, you have built-in consistency. Should Terra Miraidon come out in Ascended Heroes, I'll give it a shot in a typical Lightning deck. If it's after rotation though, this might fade away faster than my second ex-wife's looks after we got married. In happier but equally strange news, we're also getting new Trainers Pokemon in 2026. I don't mean new old Trainers Pokemon like Zekrom, I mean new Trainers Pokemon. The first was revealed to be Erika, and it appears Larry will be next, so stay tuned for more card reveals next week. Even though she only has a foot full of cards, Erika's already better than like half of the trainers we got this past year, and that's kinda sad. First up is Erika's Vileplume EX, which I find ultimately disappointing. Its ability would make Yogi Bear happy though, since it's a picnic basket for your Pokemon. The attack, however, doesn't make my powder bloom. For 2 grass and a colorless, it does 160 damage while putting them to sleep and poisoning. If sleep was such a good status condition, everyone would be running Shiinotic. But with Jet Energy and Pecharunt and Penny and Turo Scenario and Switch and Prime Catcher and Surfing Beach out there, along with the coin flip aspect of the status condition, it's not. However, making it work won't be a problem. Just pair it with Meganium, Ogerpon, and Force of Vitality. Except at that point, it's just a Hydrapple or Mega Venusaur deck, and both of those are better. No, I'm more excited for Erika's Victory Bell. For a grass and a colorless, it does 40 damage times the number of Erika's Pokemon you have in play. Have a full field of 6, that's 240 damage. Add a Brave Bangle, that's 270. To help your consistency, there's Erika's Tangela. Its ability simply gets you any Erika's Pokemon from deck every turn. Add Forest of Vitality, now you can get a Victory Bell down turn 2 almost guaranteedly. The only issue, of course, is energy. It's actually a bigger problem than you might think at first because you can't really run Meganium as it takes up a bench space and isn't an Erika's Pokemon. It's not a good option, but you can play the new Waitress. Stack an energy on top of your deck with Academy at night, then accelerate an energy to one of your Pokemon. Waitress is a much worse Crispin and has no real synergy here, I just needed a place to talk about it. If you really want to attack with Victory Bell, Crispin or Counter Gain seem like your best bets. Now, I'm not saying Victory Bell is goated or anything. It's honestly probably a worse Paldean Tauros. But it can one-shot Mega Absol EX, and you know I'm a sucker for single prizers who can OHKO Megas. You thought I was going to say I'm a sucker of toes, didn't you? Well, I mean, you'd be right. Finally, we have the lowly Registeel EX. Following in the footsteps of Regirock EX, it does a disappointing 140 damage for a whopping 4 energy. Except where Regirock can deal 280 against stage 2s, Registeel only reduces incoming damage next turn by 50. This effectively makes it a basic version of Empoleon EX. And if you're not subscribed to the VODs channel, you haven't seen how bad Empoleon EX is. Now imagine if Empoleon did 70 less damage. Yeah, I can already feel you double tapping your phone screen right now to get to the next section of this video because you want the abomination known as Registeel EX to stop penetrating your eye holes. The last little tidbit is that Boss's Orders is getting a Corbo print in 2026. I know I called this a reprint earlier, but that's a bit misleading. We already got an I-Block Boss's Orders and Mega Evolution base set, so it was always going to remain standard legal until at least 2028. Hopefully we get a full art though, because Corbo is one of the best characters in ZA, and it's kind of a shame he didn't get his own unique card. Switching Magearnas, I know I ragged on Mega Halucha EX earlier, for good reason, but it actually won a single small tournament in Japan this past week. The strategy is that you hope you don't run into any Frostlass, hope you always flip heads on Strong Body to survive an attack, and hope you always find Bianca's Devotion to fully heal Halucha and repeat the process. Otherwise, you lose the game in 2 turns and remember why everyone said this card sucks. In terms of big tournaments tracked by Limitless though, yeah, both Mega Scrafty and Mega Halucha are having more trouble performing than me on all my wedding nights. While I could be tricked into thinking Koraidon, Miraidon, and Audino all have a small level of playability in certain situations, it doesn't change the fact that their broad appeal is low. It's not their fault. They're being released in start decks, but when they come out over here, they'll take up slots in actual sets. While it'll be funny knowing scalpers would get their hopes up about seeing a shiny card tucked in the back only to be disappointed by pulling a $1 bulk Registeel instead of a gold Zard or something, none of these seem like they'll have much of an impact on the standard meta. Unless you really believe in the heart of the coin flips and always flip 2 or 3 heads on Mega Audino, in which case it might end up being one of the best megas. But then you'll take it to a tournament, go 0 for 3 on your first turn, get bodied by a Lucario, and concede in shame like you just tried to snipe a bench Terra.